before you proceed anywhere, not knowing how to proceed, you need to have, first and foremost, that what will become the power that overcomes everything. See? There have to be inside of you, you need to be swelled with that what completes, overcomes. But that can only come from truly knowing what you want and knowing how much you want it. You see? And knowing what you want and wanting it very much will create the possibilities of how it will translate into a concrete action. Will, knowledge, action.
Four days before coming here, I finished my studies at the university, a master's, and with that I concluded years of education. And it also felt like an end to a life that had been everything for me. From a very early age, academics has been everything. And it was already in the last, I would say 4 or 5 years, that a need to self-express and break out from that structure of academics was hitting me in some ways. But I was still confined to continuing because of different circumstances. And I've tried to have different outlets of self-expression, although I had my commitments and responsibilities. But still, there was this feeling that I was performing self-expression, and that there was this outburst of genuine and authentic self-expression about to come, but I just couldn't in how things have been arranged for me. And yeah, now it feels like that phase is over, and there's immense excitement for what's to come. But I also noticed that I'm very cautious on how I step into a new job or a new place where I will live. And I want to make sure that I dedicate myself to something that allows self-expression and that also gives space to self-expression, so I don't only depend on this one thing. And on top of all of that, there's also the question of whether or not I'm idealizing this possibility of a life where I will finally self-express myself.
How do you envision expressing yourself? How do you envision? Like, let's say nobody's watching, nobody's like, let's say, just not speaking from rational and logistics, but just like, imagine now just playing a game of going as wild with your dreams or with your aspirations, and that's the rule of the game. So everyone now have to tell what they wildly, how they want to envision. So that's your turn. So not how you envision yourself in terms of possibilities. I'm just asking first, just as a, like, how do you envision that self-expression? What way would it take? How would it look? What area?
Well, first, it overall looks very non-conventional.
So in other words, there's an element of exploration, adventure, right? There's non-conventional, not like going somewhere, doing the same thing. Okay. That.
And I think part of it that is non-conventional and very explorative is that I don't know how it looks. Sometimes it even has, I guess, the reference of putting myself in the middle of places where I don't know anything about what's going on around, like dropping myself in the middle of Taiwan, Yeah. But of course, I cannot make a living out of standing in a street in Taiwan, of course.
No, don't just organize it yet. Don't worry. We'll organize it in a moment. Just go wild. Just go wild with your imagination, with your just, even if it like just on a spur of the moment. It's a game. We're playing a game now. Just to warm up. What do you want with your whole heart? Don't be afraid to simply say it. We will come back to your question.
I don't know.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough. What do you want to feel then? You don't know what you want in terms of, let's say, how it looks, how it, tastes, smells, and how it, but what do you want to feel?
Safe.
Okay.
And spontaneous. Connected. Creative. Yeah, it's
Spontaneous, connected, creative. Can we add the joyous? Right? You want to derive joy from what you're doing, isn't it? It's very important. Happy, right? Do you want to experience personal happiness as well? Of course, right? Like, what a silly man, so silly old man. What are you asking? It's so obvious. No, it's very important, right? We have to first admit what we really want. First, you fully immerse yourself, give yourself license, right? Give yourself invitation to immerse yourself into what you truly want for your life. You're still very young. You studied, as you have said, for many, many years. What discipline have you studied?
industrial design engineering.
Industrial design engineering, right? And you now did the master's. Congratulations. You're one young, bright lady. Okay, so you've studied all these years. How many years altogether?
Of masters or
I don't know, the whole thing in the university, maybe
5 years with bachelor's.
5 years. That's a long time. That is a long time. So before you proceed anywhere, and not knowing how to proceed, you need to have, first and foremost, that what will become the power that overcomes everything. See? There have to be inside of you, you need to be swelled with that what completes, overcomes. But that can only come from truly knowing what you want and knowing how much you want it. You see? And knowing what you want and wanting it very much will create the possibilities of how it will translate into a concrete action. Will, knowledge, action. Ikcha, Jnana, Kriya. From the discourses, even in this immersion. Remember? The first 5 tattvas conceal themselves so that this universe exists. But at the very same time, the power that they carry, right, is always present. The Shaktis that represent that, always present. Even though there is space, time, sequential unfoldment, sense of limitation, this longing, right? The beginning and end, me, born, trying to get somewhere. And yet, that what moves and shakes it all from behind the scenes is always moved by principle of will, knowledge, action. If there is a will, they say there is a way. But will needs to be strong enough. It needs to be powerful enough. This is, therefore, I'm saying that's where we begin. So that will is that swelling sensation. Swelling. Just like in the universe, it doesn't know how it will express itself. It's simply sense of swell. It swells within itself. In the same way, those of us who went through this know exactly what it is like. You just trust that swelling. When that swelling happening, you don't know where, towards what it's swelling, but something swelling in your chest, something swelling, something filling you in, almost like to the point of bursting. And then it begins to naturally translate into how to. That's the part of jnana, knowledge, see? From Iksha Shakti to Jnana Shakti. Another Shakti takes over now. It now figures out how to. But it cannot figure out how to without the first experiencing the swelling. And then it naturally proceeds to and gives in to Iksha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, action. That's why will, knowledge, action. Will, knowledge, action. See? Camera, right? How this in movies are shot. Lights, camera, action. These are the three words that director says. And these words are like the word of God on a set. Literally, nobody, nothing, like doesn't matter. The biggest, actors, they all like walking straight line. This director said these words: camera, lights, action. In the same way, that principle is here. So this is why what I feel like reflecting to you first is to get yourself into that place where you allow yourself the freedom of that swelling. And that can only come from also asking the right questions inside and not being afraid. What do I really want? So I want you to do this with me, okay? You're going to start beautiful block note, okay? New journal when you come back home. Or if you have one here, maybe you create a draft, okay? And you open it like that. Doesn't need to be thick, many pages. Just open it like that. Maybe you start with a card, a beautiful card, okay? Just card. One side of the card, you write non-material desires. Desires that are only with regard to your spirit and soul. Soul-fulfilling desires, okay? And on this side of the card, you will write all your material desires. Okay? All your material desires, how you envision what would make your life feel better. From maybe top order down to the great, I don't know, like in some point in my own car, there was a red scooter. See? I never got it, but it somehow was compensated by other points that gotten right. I swear, red scooter was the Vespa, just...
You're giving hints for a gift.
Yeah. Okay, good one. So the card, see, you do that card, immaterial and material desires, with equal honesty. You don't show it to anyone, not to your boyfriend, not to your parents, no one. It's like your biggest secret. You write these desires there, okay? And you have a beautiful envelope, you close it, you place it in, and put it in a special place where you have easy access to it, like altar, I don't know, whatever that special place in your immediate environment. okay? If you live and share your space, make sure it's also not easily accessible. So it's kind of like, but make sure you periodically get to that open, check it. By the time, over time, you would know them by heart. Just looking, the glance of the envelope, having your envelope in your hand already will give you that sensation. What I'm driving here at, first and foremost, express yourself at the level of simply imagining and wishing. What is it that you want? You see? But you have to be honest. And guess what? When you sit down, it won't be that easy. When you sit down to write, you'll actually feel, oh my God, what is it really I want? Or what order of priority? Aha, now an exercise, see? Now you're pushed to actually express what I actually want, you know? What is the Spice Girl? What do you want? What do you want? What do you really, really want? If you want to be my lover, you have to be my friend. Da, 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 right? So you'll see it's not that easy to actually know what you want. And that is what I'm feeling like reflecting to you. But once you do, even that would undergo some modification. So don't worry that like, oh, we're going to be held accountable. So my suggestion, in the site which you choose for immaterial, soul-fulfilling desires, that is the most important. See? Because that is the driving force. The material desires are actually only a reflection of this, of what you feel lack of. But doesn't matter. Write them down. Write them down. Okay? Down to the specifics. You know, I want to do something. I want to just share with you now freely, with all of you, like with the whole group. When I had this, and I've done this exercise year after year for a number of years in the 90s, right? Language kind of undergo change, and from concrete desires, at some point that site for the material desires was doing something, right, that gives me the luxury of doing what I want. So it kind of became much less concrete. And there's a lot of room left for that, let's say, how the universe will conspire, as it were, on my behalf. And of course, what was on the immaterial desires, that was real tall order. Tall order. At some point, what surprised me is that I started to write altruistic desires. Desires to be of help. Desires to be of support. Desires to be of inspiration to others. First, desires to fulfill my sense of lack. But as the years went on, somehow that became more important. It was interesting to observe that. But first we need to be, and always we need to be honest, what is it that we really want? You see? Not for others. No. Not how others perceive us. No. Only brutally honest within yourself. See? And then watch what happens. Okay? So this is just one, it's a simple exercise, but useful. Useful, beautiful. And it's a kind of, there's this element of reflection. You writing it down, by the fact that you allow yourself to write it down, something happens with that. You're putting it on paper. That's already a creative act. See? That in itself, already there's this creativity. Even the way you will want to put it in a language, maybe in your mother's tongue, maybe, I don't know, like in your preferred language, and how you want to do it. And then, of course, in terms of practical steps, all these desires that you expressed will begin to reverberate because you gave yourself allowance, you gave yourself license to admit yourself what you want. Whereas before, you might be somehow were living on some kind of autopilot, what others wanted from you, right? Maybe following advice, maybe following some suggestion, social suggestion, parental suggestion, some guardians, right? Well, if you do this, that's good for you, right? When at some point we don't even know what do we really want. And that's where what this time is now. This is why you said, I wouldn't have said that if you didn't say at the very beginning, I feel this big change coming, right? You feel that there's time of change. And time of change is always accompanied by not knowing, by that void, by that not knowing. So these are these very, very beautiful, tender, subtle steps. Okay? And in your meditations, you will begin to get insights. And these insights will be so strong that sometimes you will jump with excitement from, wow, my God, how have I never thought about that before? See? Because it's all interconnected. It may come to you in a dream, might come to you when you're cycling or walking, or you might get this download while cycling. Okay? But that's what I want. Yeah, I want this lovely smile and not being afraid. And then you will see this is this making step forward towards the unknown. And where are you stepping forward? Where? Towards what? Towards yourself, always. You always move towards yourself. See? So do not be afraid. Yourself cannot forsake you because you're always moving towards it, even if outwardly, even if in the way of self-expression. And that's where you foster that creative spirit, creative attitude, a bit of purification, because studying precise disciplines has its own routine, has its own discipline, right? If you're disciplined enough, dedicated enough, you excel. But being on your own, right, where you are given the freedom of what you're going to do with your time, how it requires a different kind of discipline. Very different kind. That discipline frightens a lot of people. That's why most of us prefer jobs. Jobs, it keeps us confined. See? It's like, okay, I have to get up because I have a job. I don't have a job, I don't have to get up, can sleep till midday, All right, I have to do this. I have to keep myself tidy and neat, wash, clean, shave. But you don't have to, but like I'm saying, you have to appear some, If you don't, I'm just giving this, like tongue in cheek. It is true. The most unusual form of discipline is when we are given to ourselves completely. There's no other discipline can be compared to that. See? And it will be different. So you would have to go through that phase of learning a different skill of not how it used to be, how everything was rudimentary. This lecture, this lesson, this thesis, this work to do, this research, right? And it all kind of have to be done and deadlines, right? And here it's like you are now left to yourself. Left to yourself. See? It's exhilarating, it's exciting, but also frightening. It's also feeling intimidating. It feels filled with too much of variables, right? When you do this and you watch, you will excel. Absolutely, without a fail. That's why you're here. See? That's why you chose to come here. You cast your destiny in such a way, calibrate it. You come here. I don't know how long you found about this work, right? About all this. And already there is a process. And you immediately check yourself in. How long have you been since you found out?
4 months.
Okay. There are people who wait 5 years before they come. 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It took you 5 months. That's intelligence. No? Anyone agrees? Am I just having just like, come on, folks, give it a bit of a support. It is intelligence, yeah. That's being smart, intelligent, right? So you already have this intuition that guides you. And nothing to worry about. Absolutely nothing to worry about. This like attitude, this world is your oyster for you to shine. And it is truly so. Okay? You came into this world to express yourself and to enjoy this precious gift of being alive. No one have the rights to prevent you from doing that. You are privileged to be in here and now, in general, not in this particular room or situation. I'm saying privileged that you are not somewhere where this karmically is impossible for you, or like for many, many people around the world. See? So do not be afraid. You already must have generated a good enough karma coming with that. So this is also words of reassurance to you. But what's very important to what I said to you before, then you must do this. You understand? You absolutely must do this. You can't afford your freedom to be taken in such a way.